This is Power 102 Digital Friday. On a Friday, the Fathers Association hosts Hard Talk. Today's topic: Are you satisfied with the social services of TNT? You got on the system with me, Rondell Fields, main man with the action plan. How you doing, Rondell?
Hey, good afternoon. How you doing, Mark? Good to be here again. Glad to join the viewers again. We'll be joined just in a second by Mr. Wendell Grant as well. Well, you see the topic. I think it's a important topic. We've discussed a lot of things on this program so far pertaining to, the issues pertaining to men specifically, but I wanted to deal with issue I think that impacts both men, women, children, the entire family, and that is what are our views really and truly on our Ministry of Social Development and Family Services. And I want us to remember the name of the ministry when we having this discourse. We're expecting that we're going to have a lot of comments coming through from Facebook. We're expecting that people are going to call in. Remember the name of the ministry, because for some reason, Mark, many people anticipate, hey, Wendell joining us, I could see in a bonnet, that is his work, that is his trade. You understand? Well, I always tell people we are volunteers. So when you see we come out here, we coming out here, either we working, we in the middle of work, I am in my office, Wendell under a bonnet or under a truck somewhere, Shervon in his office. We coming out here to do our best to give our layman service to Trinidad and Tobago, take advantage and be appreciative of the time. Hey, good afternoon, Wendell. Grant, you hear me? I know you have grease on your hand.
Good evening, my brothers.
Good evening. What are you working on there, brother?
I'm well.
What?
Myself as well.
I'm all right. Nice to what? It's good. I like the aspect too. You understand? For the youth looking, let them see man under the bonnet, working hard. That is how we do it.
I complete this job, boy. I complete this job.
Yeah, I understand.
Big man thing.
Yeah. So Wendell, I'm just talking about, you chime in anytime you want. We know you're working while you're talking as well. You're talking about the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services. And I continue to tell people remember the name, because people just think Mark and Wendell that is the Ministry of Social Welfare. And when we call it social welfare, we think it's just a place where we need to go to get grants. That is the main purpose. Just go and collect a grant. And once we get a grant, I think sometimes we believe, well, all right, that is the fulfillment of the service that they have to provide. So I want people to understand the role, firstly, before we get into the discussion, of a Ministry of Social Development. And I'm giving you my take, Wendell could give your take, Mark, you as well. What you expect or believe a Ministry of Social Development, not social welfare, social development and family services should be providing a society. In my humble view, when I hear social development, when you say development, I think in building block, I think in construction, I think in going from nothing to something, I think in growth. When I think into develop, I could only think of starting in one place and ending in a higher level, ending in a higher space than where you have started. So it would be expectant of me that, and I'm not going to say they don't have some of these programs, and I'm going to talk about some of the programs that they do have, and then we could really get into the discussion to see, hey, is it that they have these programs and we're not utilizing them as well? That's another crux we got throw in there. But back to my point, I would expect a Ministry of Social Development to be that driving force to do what its name says, to develop its society, one, and to provide services, as I said, family services, and to provide its services to develop and strengthen the family life in our society and amongst our community members. So apart from the grant, because culturally that is what we hear most people asking or requesting from the Ministry of Social Development, What grant all you have for me? You have a book grant, you have a disability grant, you have a public assistance grant, you have a food card, you have a furniture grant because I get flood out. Always a grant, a grant, a grant, a grant, a grant. But what about the development aspect? What are the programs that might be there, or a house rental grant as a next grant that could develop your society, build when it comes to parenting, when it comes to possibly a discussion I had with some of them yesterday, when it comes to financial literacy in the home, outside of the home, in the general community at large, when it comes to possibly the provision of services, for if it's mediation, when you have co-parenting and you need to co-parent, are there mediation services available? When it comes to counsel, we see we have an uptick of suicides, particularly with men. As I always said, 202 men killed themselves in the last 2 years. And I mean, even those 202 men, a great number of women killed themselves in the last 2 years as well. You're talking about 42 women killed themselves as well. That is not a small number. That is too much. So at the end of the day, you would expect that a Ministry of Social Development not only has the counseling aspect of it as well, but also the preventative measures, also the proactive approach. It will have the reactive approach, but also a unit that has proactive approaches that helps a society develop into and flourish into a budding, bright, productive, healthy, successful society in Trinidad and Tobago. And throwing it at you now, Wendell, from what you have seen, we know some of the programs that are available as well. What is your take on the service, on what a Ministry of Social Development should be able to provide? And after you give your take, tell me if you think from your experience that you've seen it being provided across our nation and Trinidad and Tobago.
You hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yes, so this has always been one of my concerns, and I've always been speaking about the social development aspect because I think that it is very much neglected. The ministry calls itself the Ministry of Social Development, but for me, that is far from so. Because, like you said before, that ministry tends to focus a lot on financial assistance and grants and so forth, right? But my main concern has always been, my thing is that the human resource of every nation is the greatest resource of that nation. And for me, as far as I see the attitude of those that are in power, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, and not just the present government, but every government that has passed through this land, in my opinion, the most neglected resource in this country and most exploited and neglected is the human resource. Because just like all the European nations, the Western nations go in and rape the wealth and resources of the African nation, I see the same thing happening with the human resource in our country. Human resources being exploited, but not replenished in the sense that efforts are not made in a conscious manner to develop the social aspect of the human being in Trinidad and Tobago. And I believe that is why we have the amount of drug abuse, alcohol abuse, and the extent of crime that we are seeing in our country. I believe those are the reasons why it exists, because of a lack of focus on social development. Now, the thing about it is, for me, social development is not building community centers and playgrounds and that sort of thing. For me, that's what they do. And there's a reason why I think that they do that, because you see, in order to make money, you have to spend money, right? So by spending money and developing infrastructure, there are individuals who reap a harvest financially, right? But that doesn't filter down to the actual social development of the human being, right? Because we need complete and whole, well-rounded individuals who will become from childhood into good citizens who will make meaningful contribution to our society, our nation, and to a larger extent the world, right? And as far as I'm concerned, that is not happening. I mean, it happens on a very small scale because of the efforts of certain parents. They may produce excellence, but in the majority, look around. What is happening? We have communities that are totally neglected, communities that are falling apart, communities where the drug lords and the crime lords and the gang bosses run things because of a lack of that social development aspect of the youths and the young men and women in those communities, right? And so, because of the lack of focus in these areas, they leave a door open for the drug lords and the gang leaders who call themselves community leaders to come in and say, well, look, we will find this and we will find that. And that's another reason why so many of the criminals are protected, because the criminals are known for giving to their communities. You know? So that's
So
my
when
take
that,
on it. Go ahead.
well, I hearing you, reading your lips more than anything else, but you're breaking up. But the things that you're saying, and I'm going to recap a lot of what you were saying because it was so meaningful. You understand?
Right.
So they got your position and get a better thing. Because a lot of the points you made, Wendell, the main thing was the human resource. And I totally want to support that what you're talking about. And is it true? We always say that, we always say that from our organization. The most important resource, I don't all the natural gas, the oil, the everything, is the human resource, because the human resource powers every other. And I love the point where you made that we are depleting the human resource and not restoring it. And that should be part of the role and function of the social development, as you rightfully say. Because if you're taking out, even with oil, let us consider and wonder if all the oil run out, what will happen? But you must understand the mental drain on your society as well, and do what is the necessary to replenish it, as you have been alluded to. You made mention also of infrastructure that persons would have been building, like the community center and these kind of things. And sometimes it's used more for profiteering than it's used for the upliftment and benefit of the society or the community by large and where they are built. Sometimes some people take control of the community center and it's only to throw wedding. There's only to throw them thing, you gotta ask them, you gotta beg them to use it. Sometimes the youth want to have a little meeting because they have their own community-based organization and they can't use it because they had to talk to the council, and the council gave them trouble to use it. And there's division right amongst the community for an infrastructural building that was placed there for everybody to utilize the benefit of the community and the wider society. So very, very, very pertinent points, very strong points. And the reason why I'm having the discussion more so than anything else, Wendell, I think we who are the human resource, or we who are the citizens ourselves, do not understand the value of the social development. And because of that, we have not been able to demand what we should from the ministry. And even if not demand what we should from the ministry, I mean, we've been making calls from our organization, but we are one group, we are one sound. We also need to also consider, maybe because there's no noise from the ground as well, maybe the ministry themselves is underserved. They don't care. When you hear the minister go on a budget to speak about social development, more so than anything else is about how much grant they give. Never a report on how much lives we intervened in, how much programs we had that build the family. I know they have a number of programs that does this thing through the National Family Services. Because for those who don't know, there's the grant section at the Ministry of Social Development, and there also is the National Family Services. They will deal with council. I will share some of their numbers as well. They will deal with council. They will deal with outreach programs. I would also update you as well, Wendell. After all the noise, we've been making for years on every form of media, they decided to start going out into the communities, because for years we've been saying exactly what I just said. Coming out into the community opposed to having it in a particular space or doing it on Zoom now as the norm, seeing the type of program it is, coming into the community, getting the stakeholders involved to bring persons who need it most to come and participate in a communal program. So I give them kudos for coming out yesterday, meeting with the stakeholders, having some of the discussions, hearing what the stakeholders' contributions are, and I thank them for their honesty as well with some of the challenges they have faced. And after sitting in that meeting, Wendell, I realized, at least to me, in my interpretation, they didn't say so don't go and fire nobody. From my interpretation, Wendell and Mark, I realized that the Ministry of Social Development seems to be a ministry where those who are members of cabinet and government leaders, and as you rightfully said, Wendell, not only this government, but even from the others gone before, they don't see the real value in this ministry. When this ministry is the supplement of your society. This ministry is supposed to bring the heartbeat, bring the strengthening of the mind, the stabilizing of the human person, the human being in the family, the human being in the community, the human being and even in the workspace, because at the end of the day, they provide services as well, or are to provide full services in some places in their workspaces as well. So is it just, or is it mainly, because I mean, yes, we could blame the people and say the people possibly don't know what they should benefit from the ministry. But is it that we should lay the blame on the leaders? Because they must know what the ministry designed to do. What do you think, Wendell?
In my observation, when it comes to the government's approach, this is my view. Most of the ministry that actually deals with the human element of our society are the ministries that are really poorly performing, or lacking in getting meeting the services that are required for the human element of our society. I mean, if we look at the health ministry, we could see the extent of lack in the health ministry. We look at the social development ministry, we could see the extent of the lack there. It seems to be, to me, to be a trend. Now, when you look at some of the when you look at the trend in some of the other ministries, again, where money can be made, where financial resources can be exploited and disbursed and so forth, you see a great amount of effort in those areas. But this is my view, this is from my observation what I have been seeing. And so I agree with you in context that whether it is that people are not aware of the services that the ministries are supposed to bring to them, or the ministries don't play their responsibilities in delivering services to the people, I think that it can be both. People may be ignorant to what they are entitled to from these ministries by way of representation, as well as the ministry not having the exuberance to deliver to the people what they're being paid to do. I mean, I can tell you, bro, I mean, just today I was thinking about it. I was doing a little bit of research and I was thinking about it. Even when you go to the let's say the social welfare department, where for the disbursements of checks and so on, and you encounter the human element that is supposed to be actually delivering the service. And this is something that we need to address in this country. We need to have these things addressed. When you encounter the individuals that are delivering the service to the people that are walking in through those doors, their behavior, the characteristics that they are displaying and demonstrating to the customers leaves there's a lot to be desired, because the behavior is disgusting. And I mean, a lot of times when we speak to people, you will hear them making reference to the KFC workers and their attitude. But when you go into a government office on any given day, and you see the behavior and the characteristics that these workers are demonstrating, as if they are doing you a favor to do the job that they are getting paid for, right? And so that sort of attitude not only seems to come from the CSRs, in my opinion, but it seems to be coming from all the way up. The approach that is, if you get what I'm saying.
Correct. I get exactly what you're saying. I mean, and that's important elements are key in Wendell. As I rightfully say, customer service. Even in the grant department, the sharing of grants, somebody on a hard time, especially in that area. You see, do we have staff that are trained in customer service, particularly that delicate type of customer they're going to be serving? This is somebody that might be coming on the borderline of a psychological breakdown. They don't have food, or they don't have clothes, they don't have shelter. They already had to deal with the issue of possibly putting the tail between the leg, and they're in a place where they come in to ask for help, and then they come and they get a dismissal, a rude dismissal, or somebody just threw a needs assessment form for you in a disrespectful manner. No sense or no display rather of concern or care. And it's two different departments. Grants on one side, and it's National Family Service that deals with the council and these things. And I get what you're saying, Wendell, and I agree with you. Both sides must have a sense of who their customer is, an idea of what the customer may be going through, and have some level of decorum, display some level of concern, some level of care. And one of the solutions, I'm certain, and I know even though we suggested they will say they possibly do it time and time again, is customer service training and continuous customer service training. And then the next issue with that, Wendell, is what is the hiring process? When you're hiring people for these jobs, I don't care even if it's the clerk, are they trained in some particular skill set that you think it is required for this type of job set, dealing with this type of customer that is a vulnerable customer more likely than anything? If you are good at management, even the security guard that you selected, you will speak to the owner of the security company and request a particular security guard. Because sometimes the security guard playing receptionist too. And that is the reality of it. So as we discussed the issues, we had to rumble the solutions as well. Hopefully for those who are listening, to make sure that these things are implemented, you must consider who your customer is. You must consider who your target group is. You're going out there, you're telling people, you're advertising, we want you all to come to us for help. The ministers go in a rant talking about all the grants that they can access. Furniture grant, rental grant, this kind of grant, that kind of grant. So when persons in those issues, I'm not saying everybody is really in need, they're really going to get some bad eggs as well. But you must consider that your target group and the persons you've thrown that net out are persons in vulnerable position. So you must try your best to see how assistance can be rendered. So customer service, as you rightfully said, I think that was a very, very, very good and salient point. Another point you made too, when it came to prioritizing ministries, that is something that is very critical. And I could understand sometimes we have to prioritize particular ministries based on the issues in our country at a particular point in time. But are we doing as you suggested? Our leaders prioritizing ministries that are only economically valuable. Not saying that having a strong human resource don't make them more economically valuable, but I get what you're saying. Those ministries that they can see an immediate cash return, Is the investment going right there, or are we prioritizing the ministries also that, like particularly national security, because crime is high and it is now a political topic? So are we prioritizing based on those things that are maybe politically influential, and those things that provide, or we could see cash money coming back in when we invest? And if that is the case, we should have the common sense to understand the value of replenishing our human resource with its mental strength, its mental capacity, and sometimes those who have fallen under, when it comes to the social welfare grants department, those who have fallen under the ability to earn some kind of financial income, and getting them back there to a place where they can be self-sustainable again, which is another point. Sometimes we seem to like to keep people dependent on grants, Wendell and Mac, opposed to bringing them in a position where they can make themselves financially stable again. I know there are particular programs. One of those programs that they will champion and say that they have, and they do have, is a seed plan program. A seed plan program that is supposed to help not only young people, but anybody who has possibly a business idea. I know they say there is also a theory component of it where they try to teach the person some business development skill, try to help them get their business registered. And when they get them going, open bank accounts for them, get them into the program, they give them a seed startup, possibly to buy, if you want to open a waka business, they buy the waka machines for you. If you want to do agriculture, they do some of the things to help you get started and going. But with these programs, are they financed well enough to give a meaningful part of the population? Or do we give more of the funding to the dependency syndrome grants?
Exactly.
Which will keep people coming? Because a challenge I can tell you we've had, and which is very demotivating to communities, is when you see we have our campaigns, Wendell, together with the TTPS, and we have it with all these groups, and we have the ministry come and we take names, and people get onto the seed plan program, and people looking forward to it, and then the ministry does not have the resources to deliver in that area.
So let me say this from my point of view. What I have been observing is we continue to have a reactive approach rather than a proactive approach to these things, right? We into the quick fix, the pause, and we continue to take that quick fix approach, try to find a solution after the problem has already developed. So those programs that you're talking about, while those programs may be good, I believe that we have to do something. We have to address the situation prior. For example, within recent time, we saw the graduation of the Marlon graduates, and we saw how well those so-called dropouts, school dropouts, would have performed in the Marlon program, right? And so I believe that we need to take the approach where it is addressed from there rather than wait until the problem blossoms and then try to find solutions. Well, okay, we have unemployment in the country, so we're gonna give this grant, we're gonna give this seed, we're gonna give that and that and that. Let's focus on developing the youths so that they will not be dependent. They will not have that dependency syndrome, right? I believe we need to take a proactive approach. If we take a proactive approach, all these various programs where they are now trying to provide services that would rescue, would not be needed.
Totally agreed, Wendell. And the thing is, we have groups, NGOs, some of them state-led, some of them military-led, that have been turning out some of these youths. And it's a very good point that you make as well, because most times they turn them out, they get them their passes, or they get them apprentice skill, or they get them even to a professional level when it comes to skill. Most times they just throw them out into the water, now to fight up to swim. No seed grant, as we're talking about. no kind of movement towards anything, even though you've now given them a skill, even though you might have now reformed their bad behavior and given them a more positive outlook on life, you're now sending them back most times from whence they came. Sometimes back to the same block. Remember, they're leaving a stable environment to go back into an environment of instability. And that, I agree with you, also is a problem. And if we were collaborating or we had that true multi-sectoral approach amongst our ministries, they could figure this out. They could realize that let us grab Ministry of Social Development, partner with the ministry, because I know now Mylat is not under Ministry of National Security, again, is under Ministry of the Youth Development, under Foster Cummins now. Let us try to, those guys who are inclined to become businessmen from the batch, let us now provide them with a seed plant or a seed program for them to be able to go forward. I know the Ministry of Youth Development has some of these things that they've given to people. I don't know on what basis. But you're seeing, as you rightfully said, we have Shervon, who is an NGO, who is doing as best a job as they can as well. Shervon has turned out many computer technicians, many welding technicians, many barbers as they could, who once again get people through programs from the ages, even the Ministry of Education sends boys that are expelled and girls that are expelled from school to Shervon. Yet, as you rightfully say, we need to know, after we get them from the expulsion, get them into a program like Shervon, which is an NGO. Shervon is not even a state program. Then after that, we need to now have something to give them a jump start in life, and possibly one of these social development programs could help us develop those younger ones into our society going forward. And as I said, take a proactive approach and minimize the number of persons that may end up unemployed on the breadline and sitting down home. So I often wonder if the ministries and the minister and the ministry itself understands that the Ministry of Social Development is about developing our society. And that is why I want our listeners to get that. I want them to understand where they need to make greater demands. I was on the Prime Minister Roadmap Committee team, and I always will say in every committee I'm on, so not just that one with him, other committees have been selected too as well. Social service and social development is always least important. No matter how you quarrel, no matter how you make a noise, no matter how you say. And when the discussion comes up, it is primarily around how much grants can be delivered, how much grants can be given, how much house we could possibly give out, how much house we could build, opposed to trying to make our society, trying to do what we're supposed to do and develop the society in a number of ways, and strengthen it in a number of places. I commend National Family Service because I understand the services they try to provide, but they cannot handle the workload. I don't care how willing they are, no matter what they say. I see how willing they were yesterday. But we, Wendell, you know National Family Service was one of our go-to offices. But we had to stop because no matter how we send people will be becoming discouraged because they did not have the human resource to handle the workload. And I asked that question yesterday of the director, a commender for coming on the ground herself. And I mean, she had to be honest. There are persons there that don't have enough staff. They need more staff. When you ask yourself, which is another problem we're going to go in now that goes even higher beyond the ministry itself. When you ask, are there persons with their that have degrees in social work? Are there persons that want employment? The answer we received was yes. But sometimes they're not being employed. And sometimes when they are employed by the state, they are employed in a minimal capacity. They're getting a 1-year contract to renew. 1 year, 1 year, 1 year. After the person would have gone and done their studies for however so long, after you know there's a demand and a real need for social workers within your society to deal with the number and increase, you have suicides as high as it is amongst men. You have homelessness as high as it is amongst men. You have murders as high as it is amongst men. And you have not realized you have a social crisis. And if you
I don't
have
think
a
that they don't realize it. I don't think that they don't realize. I think they don't care. They
that
don't
is it.
care.
I mean, I just try to be hopeful still, but you have to bring it real, eh?
I think
Sure, we
I
can
think
talk, we
that
say
they
talk.
don't care. And I think that they don't care, and the reason that they don't care is because the people is not demanding proper representation from those that they
Correct.
put there to represent them. The people taking whatever is given to them, and in this country, like a lot of us say, the people seem to like bull in this country, right? Because
Correct.
the Minister of Finance grin his teeth from ear to ear and say, well, he raised it once, he raised it twice, and he go raise it again because the people in riot, right? So
See?
the problem is the human element in our society not demanding the representation that they have placed these individuals there for. So these individuals could afford to operate in a manner that they do not care. You see, if
Correct.
demands were being made on them, if we were demanding that they do the jobs that they are getting paid for and do the jobs that they were placed there for, then they would be acting differently from what they're doing.
Correct.
But right now,
Correct.
it's a don't care.
And
It's a don't care
Mark,
attitude.
if you're there, you could just give out the numbers because we want to hear those persons who are listening. If you're on Facebook, if there are any messages, if there's anyone that wants to call in and give your views, and that is the thing, Wendell. Everybody more concerned about talking about our policeman who on wife on social media today than having these kind of conversations, tuning into these kind of podcasts, things that could actually give you the education, sensitize you in a meaningful way to know what you are to expect from some of these places. You cannot wait as members of a society to land on hard times to then scamper to look for Wendell Grant number or Rondell Fields number or Mac number to find one of these fellas' number to help you. I heard a profound statement from a young lady the other day. Nobody is coming to save you. And I will repeat it. We cannot come to save you.
That's the reality. And I mean, we saw that clearly in the situation with the little sister from Tobago, who ended up in the bottom of a abandoned water tank with 2 children, right?
Correct.
Nobody
and
is
the
coming to
children
help
losing
you.
their life innocently. And we go talk about that because I have an issue with
Because
that.
why? Because why? Nobody ain't coming to help you,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
And
Nobody in help you, so pressure.
and she couldn't help
Everybody there.
herself. And obviously she could not help herself, right?
That is it.
This morning I saw on social media a young woman, 23-year-old, in a police station seemed to be having a mental breakdown. Do you know that we are having a lot of those in our society? Mainstream media is not reporting those things. That's not going to sell newspaper. And not only that, the powers that be does not want the reality of what is happening on the ground to get out there. So a lot of things are being censored.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Let me ask you something. Since I have been in this public life, since I have been in interacting with all these government ministries, since I've been part of the Farmers Association of Trinidad and Tobago, I have come across many clinical psychologists. I have yet to come across a social psychologist. Have you met any social psychologists? Do you know of any social psychologists? You see, the social psychologists is the ones who are responsible for determining cause and effect in our society and coming up with solutions in the prevention of certain things, right? But the clinical psychologist is the one who puts you sit down and takes your money out of your pocket to help you with the mental illness as a result of what the society is doing to you.
Correct.
Right?
Totally.
So we have a lot of people going into clinical psychology because there's money to be made. Where are the social psychologists? Where are the social psychologists in the government departments?
Correct. Mark, you're going ahead?
Yeah, let me give you the numbers. The numbers are 222-8255, 222-8255. And we have a toll-free number of 866-525-1099. 866-525-1099. You can also send your comments via YouTube or Facebook because we are streaming live there. I just want to add to what you guys are
Yeah.
saying now.
Jump
I
right in.
tend to, yeah, I tend to observe what's happening socially, especially in the area that I live, and I traverse from Labrador to Port of Spain almost every day. So I tend to see, I'm always on social media also, and I see what's happening with people. I listen to the mainstream news, and I also see and hear what's going on with people. What bothers me about the social ministry or the Ministry of Social Development
Mm.
um, is that I think their staffing should entail um, members of each community
Mm.
that are people, I should say, of each community that are willing to
Mm-hmm.
relay the problems that they are observing in their area. I mean, you spoke
Mm.
about community centers and stuff. Most of the community centers are very much underused. They are not facilitated in the way to encourage young people to even help them um,
Correct.
shy from mental distress and all of that, because sometimes people are not really mentally ill, it's just that
Yeah.
the pressures and the frustration of facing
Mm-hmm.
every day,
Mm-hmm.
they have nothing to do, and instead of getting into negativities and stuff, they what we might say as a crack up. so
Correct.
so I can remember back in my little boy days. I mean, the community center was well used in the form that we had you know theater groups, drama
Right.
groups. We had people who were teaching the young girls to sew,
So on.
tailors. Those things were active back in the day. And somehow, like you said, it's just boiler. When you go to them, they offer you a grant. Well, how far does
Correct.
grant take you?
Correct.
But I think the need for soldiers in all communities to relate to the ministry as to what the social issues are that are affecting people all the
And
day.
and
There are lots of
another
people who just cannot afford to find something to do.
Yeah, and another great point. I remember I echoed something similar as well. So the point you're making is on point, on point, on point, and it goes to show that every member of society can contribute to this. You don't have to be Rondell Fields, you don't have to be Wendell Grant, you don't have to be on the radio every day like Mark, but you're a member of society. We all have our role to play. We all have our part to play. We all have to give some portion of our life back to our society. It is our responsibility. You understand? Business people have their corporate social responsibility. You as a resident have your social responsibility to your community. And that is the thing. And just today I was thinking that same thing you said, Mark. I was thinking, I say, them long time people was like social workers.
Yes, it will.
Because they would give her the time if to go to teach her to bake, teach her to fish, teach her to do something. So they were like social workers. They had an issue and a breakup between the younger ones, the older ones, the elder ones would come together and talk to you, counsel you. It was really a community raising, a village raising the younger ones and raising even and sustaining the older ones. And I was just thinking that very same thing that you're saying. The older days, it was as if they were social workers trained by experience. And to the other point, with having, I often say it's very good, particularly with the NGOs in the community, the CBOs in the community who on the ground doing the work. I agree with that. Sometimes employ some of them in areas where you know you could utilize them. Employ them in the office of the Prime Minister, in those places that had to touch the ground gender affairs. Employ them in the places like the Ministry of Community Development. Employ them in places like Ministry of Social Development. You had to get people on the ground as well. Yes, there may be particular places they cannot fit, but I'm pretty sure there are spaces that you can have them involved, those persons who are already stakeholders in the community, so that they can help funnel information back to you. You're going to have a more intimate connect and touch with the ground. But
Exactly.
these things are development plans. And I think the ministry, for some reason, has lost that sense of what it is required to do. And it is to develop a society in a number of ways, not just respond to the issues as Wendell say, not just be reactive. They say, well, all right, boy, we have a problem with broken families going crazy now. If we were doing what we were supposed to, brothers, we may have had less divorces now. Because we realize here what's going on. We have a shift in this society where we have women working long shifts as much as men, and we're going to see it may have some role changing, and we're going to see in the family, we're going to have some issue where the child may be less attended to now. The child now may have to stay in daycare centers more than the child at home, and we're going to see an issue going to happen in the family, which is supposed to be the bedrock of the community. So if they were doing very similarly to what you say, Wendell, as well, and by being proactive, even before this plethora of divorces now that are taking place began to take place, we may have been able to prevent. The number may have been a lot smaller.
And this is where my view on this entire thing is that this thing is a social, this is an engineered construct, right? Because you notice you make mention of there wouldn't be so many divorces, there wouldn't be so many young men turning to crime, there wouldn't be so many hooligans and undesirables in our society and so on and so forth. But here what is going to happen. Here what is going to happen, and this is why I have to keep asking myself, is this a deliberate and malicious approach on the part of those that are in power to keep it the way that it is? Because let me tell you something, if we don't have the divorce rate that we have, a lot of the judiciary and the lawyers are not going to be employed. If we don't have the level of crime that we have, a lot of the magistrates and judges are not going to be employed. A lot of the police officers will not be needed, right? So is it that certain people in power are deliberately, and I am asking the question, I am not making a statement here, I'm asking the question, is it that certain people that are in power are deliberately allowing things to be the way that they are in order for certain industries like the prison industry, the judicial industry, the police service industry to flourish? Even the pharmaceutical industry flourishes as a result of broken and dysfunctional people in our society. Is this a deliberate and engineered construct? We have to ask ourselves that.
Agreed. And what I will chime in here again to say, because as I say, I am not going to put my head down in the sand and say that they have zero programs, and that even when they execute some of these programs, people don't come. We know that to be true as well. And we know our society, and I don't know if it's because it's a society that has now lost any desire or possibly had no desire in the whole. You understand? Or had no clue as into what a budding, healthy society is supposed to look like in the first place, and they believe everything okay with them is just life happening. So maybe that's the reason they're not utilizing it. But even if that is the case, isn't it a reason, or shouldn't we also not have from the ministry a genuine attempt to sensitize the society, sensitize the community in a meaningful way? You see, we have to be able from on top to take some type of accountability. Now, I don't want to only blame on top, because I believe on the ground we have a personal responsibility too, and we have to be held accountable for that. As we just said, nobody ain't coming to save you. And long and short of the story, you should not expect, and that is the kind of society we have now. We have a society, Wendell and Mac, where people believe somebody's supposed to come and save them. How many? Look at what happened with us, Wendell. Guys will come, get help, and leave. They wouldn't stay to continue to help, to pay it forward to others who need help. You are not in an issue with your son anymore. I am not in an issue with mine. Shervon is not in an issue with his children anymore. Nobody is in an issue with theirs. Marlon either. But we understand the value of paying this service forward, because we understand it have sons to come up after. We understand it have other persons in this issue. But we must be honest also that on the ground, there is a level of apathy, a lack of interest. That's what apathy means from the society itself, where they don't want to help themselves, they don't want to seek help if they need help, they don't want to commit themselves to helping others. It's just about existence. They don't want to do the research. We have a website, www.tfatt.com, with loads of information, with videos, with reports, with research, with all those things that we didn't have in that time. And you will send it to people. And then when you view how many people viewing it, it is not in the numbers of persons that calling us to help them or messaging us to take time out of the phone to help them. And I want Trinidad and Tobago to see what Wendell is doing, you know. His work, we just be working too. This is a volunteer-based thing. So when you see we have found the finance, and that is amongst ourselves, because we are no state funding, to build websites, to build apps, to put out videos, to go and use our Facebook page and continuously boost posts, to put information out for you. The most you can do is utilize it, make that personal effort, go out, go to the ministries as well, because there are some programs that are there, are programs of development. There is counseling to some level. I'm not going to say it's where it's supposed to be. It needs to be better, and it needs to be better supported by state and better funded. But there are spaces that you can utilize. There's the mediation centers from community development. Sometimes we started to do that when persons where we've come in contact with a mother and a father who honestly wants to co-parent without many issues. We don't tell them go to the court. We tell them go to the mediation center. In every community, many of the communities, there are mediation centers that are not or are underutilized. And based on that, and that was one of the points or excuses, even if it's not a point, that is one of the reasons for not hiring more staff. Because they're not seeing the demand. So for the managers and directors to go to the PS and go to the minister for more staffing, they must see that it is necessary to hire more staff. So on the ground, we had to take some level of responsibility and accountability as well. We had to make a real effort to change our situation. If you see you're going through some kind of issue, you have to reach out, try to access the services that are there. But then we have a double-edged sword, brothers, because then we will have those who tried. And those who tried and didn't get through will leave with a bad taste in their mouth. So what do we do? What do we do? But call on all parties to perform the roles they are to perform. Call on the minister to hire adequate staff, because we know we could refer in a big way, a massive way to the ministry. So call on the minister to hire some of those persons that are needed. We need social workers in the space. There are social workers, people who you send and you give gate to go and work and do the social work, get a degree, do whatever thesis they did, wherever. And then they cannot get employment now. And if they get up employment, is an employment that cannot give them sustainability or security, so they're unwilling to possibly even take the job too. They can't use the job for any financial advancement in their life, because when they, let me say, they're going in the bank to try to get some kind of automobile, so they could actually use it to drive around, because social work is driving around sometimes. They can't, because when the bank see you have a 1-year contract, the bank can go in and do that, your contract renewable every year. As a businessman, I can tell you, you can't get no car to buy. And these are some of the things that from the state level, they need to do better as well. When it comes to hiring, you hire those who you want with the competencies, and you give them a sustainable contract, at least 5 years or something like that. Permanent employment, something like that. Because this is permanent work. We're always going to have social issues. In my humble view, even in the education realm, brothers, I think we haven't been wise at all. We've opened gate and shut it in people's face, because now everybody have a degree and nobody is valuable. if you as a leader, and that is why it's important to know how you're doing things, even when you're giving grant and incentive. You incentivize things that's going to benefit your society. So if at this point now we have a problem where we just have children selecting courses that they're not going to find jobs in. Possibly we don't have the demand here, and possibly you're not going to get many people from outside of Trinidad and Tobago even going to employ them. So many of them have the degrees and opening a roti shop now, or opening a market stall, or going and find some other type of business because their degree not working for them. We see there's a demand for social workers. Maybe you should incentivize those courses where we need people in our society right now, so that people will be driven to go in that direction. Men, big complaint from social services as well. They need male social workers. But stereotypically, some men see it as a feminine job, a female job, so they don't want to go and get involved in social work. But that is what we just do. And we's big men, we's men under bonnet, we's men selling car, we's men doing about social work we doing too. There's nothing female about that. You understand? We need men involved in these things as well. We need men. Men are by nature very logical thinkers. By nature. Some of the best species for this type of social work, to mediate, to counsel, to speak from an informed and logical position. So your involvement in this is important. Nothing is wrong with looking for a feel in going down the social realm. And these are things I think the state needs to do when it comes to sensitization, and beat it on the airwaves, beat it on the TV, beat it on the radio, beat it in the community, beat it in the UE, beat it in UTT, beat it in USC, beat it in the secondary schools, so that people understand the value and the necessity we have of social work in this country. We need it bad. As we spoke, as you mentioned, Wendell, when it comes to setting up preventative measures for crime, for derailing people from crime, when it comes to intervention to preventing people from having broken homes, like social work. That's important. When a man divorced, you feel he could go and function in oil and gas properly out on an oil rig? You feel he could function, his wife now go on, his wife leave him, he was unfaithful or she was unfaithful. In the TTPS, same thing. Anywhere, any job spec, you can't get the best out of a person if you continue to drain their resources and you do not replenish it. You do not cater to them. I can start to tell you, and you know too, Wendell, the number of people that come to us from the police service, come from the army, come from these places. They have their associations, but because of confidentiality issues or mistrust, they don't go there. They want to come to a separate entity that they could trust, they could speak to. Sometimes if you give a man that space, he may not cheat on his wife. He may be misinterpreting something, or he may be going through something, or maybe if he comes and says something, they may go and address the wife, he and the wife together. And whichever, or if both of them having some altercation, you bring them together. But we have to make these services more easily accessible. I know they make mention, for those of you in the central area, they're going to have an all-time, full-time, very soon, counselor that's going to be in the health centers. I encourage you all to utilize it. Kunupia Health Center is one of the places, and the Shogunas Health Center. I imagine they're going to be going to other communities and utilizing those health centers where they're going to select a date for you to go on counsel. There are numbers that they have, there are offices that they have. I want to share some of them, particularly for suicide prevention. There is a hotline that the Ministry of National Family Service has. It's suicide prevention hotline. It is 800-COPE. That number, 800-2673. 800-2673. Reach out. If you yourself don't have an issue, but you know somebody who may, give them the number. And that is why it is important for every soul to be involved. because you might hear somebody talking about it, or somebody might pop up a post on Facebook. Go under the post and write 800 COPE. Call 800 COPE. You might save the life. You have to involve yourself. You have to be a social agent in this society. If you want to see change, you have to be the change that you want to see. We can't sit down and wait for the government for everything. We have to demand what we want from them. If our government sees our population educated enough to know what to demand of them, they will respect those people, boy. But we are not educating ourselves. So, and we're not just not educating ourselves. We're not even making we're not even taking time to introspect. We're not taking time to look on the outside of those around you to see what we need in our society. But you know what, Wendell? We're ready to go and vote. If they call to vote tomorrow, all are we ready to vote? But you don't even know what you're voting for. You don't know what you want. All you know is that you hear the PNM. All you know is that you hear the UNC. You're ready to vote.
It comes down to individual responsibility, and people. I said it comes down to the right? People need to be responsible for themselves. We need to be responsible citizens of our country. And if we are responsible for ourselves, to ourselves, then we will in turn be responsible for each other. Right? If you look at the society that we are living in, very, very few people care about one another. You know, people on the road, and the road rage and the hostility and the venom that people are spewing, you can see that people do not feel that they are responsible for their behavior, far less for their fellow man, for their brothers. And therein lies part of the problem.
True. Let me give some more information here, Wendell, because I want people. I have the offices, I have some numbers. Give it a try. If you know there's some issue, you know you want a program in your area, you know you want counseling in your area, call and make these demands. Show them that you want it in your area. Show them that you want it in your space. Let me give you some of the offices for the National Family Services. They provide counseling. They provide a lot of the programs that we're talking about, the parenting programs. They also have the programs when it comes to starting of these small businesses and these kind of things. But you need most definitely to reach out, show the demand. Better you show the demand and they can't supply, so we could say, hey, we are demanding and they can't supply. And if they can't supply, they would say it's because of human resource. Then we make the demand that they get the human resource that they want. Budget coming up. We supposed to already have made the demand that here what Ministry of Social Development must be able to be empowered with the type of resources that they need. But again, you're going to see Ministry of Social Development not going to get no real feature. When they come to talk, hopefully they hear the show and they do better. When they come to talk about Ministry of Social Development, they're going to talk about grant, and they're going to talk about pension, and they're going to talk about disability grant, and they're going to talk about public assistance, and they're going to talk about food card. Opposed to programs that are important, sustainable programs, and post-program projects. Because they don't just go with a program in a community and disappear. What is the post-program plan? To keep things running in that community, to keep things sustainable, or the training, the things that are trained in the community, to ensure that it is now being utilized in that community. That is where we want to see money go. How much more money will get national security to buy a new van to drive up all over the place? That is not the problem. That is a reactive response. That is a reactive approach. Sorry.
You need to crash up. You need to crash up all over the place.
Huh?
I say you meant to crash up all over the place, not drive up all over the place.
Crash up all over the place. So let me give you guys some numbers here for the offices for the National Family Services. We have the Rondell building, Neverson Street, Point 14. This is for South people, Point 14. The Rondell building, I have no idea where it is. It says Neverson Street, Point 14. If you're from South, you must know the Rondell building. You must know Neverson Street. You must know Point Fortin if you're from Point. The contact number 744-1033. 744-1033. I say it again. Get a pen, get a paper. Even if you're looking at the recording after, take this information for the officers for the National Family Services from the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services. Rondell Building, Neverson Street, Point Fortin. 744-1033. We have Penal after. Rock Road Penal, Social Welfare Building. 623-2608. Extension 2860. Number again, 623-2608. The extension for Rock Road Penal is extension 2860. It is located Rock Road Penal Social Welfare Building. Again, Omar Dean Building, number 59-62 Cipero Street, San Fernando. This is for those of you in immediate south, San Fernando area. National Family Services Building is there. 623-2608. That number again, 623-2608. The extension for them is 2370 or 2323. Port of Spain, the Law Association Building, 95-97 Frederick Street, Port of Spain. The same number again, 623-2608. Extension for Port of Spain, 623-2608. Number again, 623-2608. Extension for Port of Spain, 6701-26711. So I am guessing you could call from 6701, 6702, 6703, straight until you reach the 6711 for the Port of Spain area. Princess Tongue, Malson's Building, High Street, Princess Tongue. They all the tax money paying for these places, you know. And all they need to utilize them. Need to see if they're under-resourced. Need to see if they need more staffing. Need to see if they're responsive. If you don't test it in the society, then we don't know. So, Malson's Building, High Street, Princess Tongue. 623-2608 again. Extension 2460 for Princess Tongue. 2460. Another building again. Tunapuna area. Tunapuna Social Services Center. Eastern Main Road, Tunapuna. If you're from the Tunapuna area, if you don't hear your exact location, the closest one to you will work. So we're dealing with Tunapuna again now. Tunapuna Social Services Center. The number is 623-2608. The extension for Tunapuna is 1760-1765. So once again, you could use 1760, 1761, 1762, straight until you go into 1765. Naparima Road. So I'm giving all every single one they have. Naparima Road. Social Welfare Building, number 2458, Naparima Road, Rio Claro. So it's Rio Claro actually. Social Welfare Building, number 2458, Naparima Road, Rio Claro. Same number again, 623-2608, extension 2560, extension 2560 or 2561. Couva is central. Couva Social Services, Macamden Road, Couva Social Services, 623-2608, extension 6150 to 6152. Extensions again, 6150 to 6152. That's if you're in the Couva Central area. Finally, Shogunas, Macoon Building, Eleanor Street, Shogunas. 623-2608, extension 6275. Shogunas people again, Central people, Macoon Building, Eleanor Street, Shogunas. The number 623-2608, extension 6275. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 buildings. 9 buildings and contact numbers are just provided to you. If you need counsel, if you just want to request certain programs in your community, you have a community-based organization, you have an NGO, you have a football team, you have a club, and you want certain services where it comes to family development in your community, social development in your community, not just for grants. Call for building blocks for your community, building blocks for social development in your space, a communal space. Utilize these spaces.
Rondell,
Utilize them.
we have a call on the line. Good
Let's go.
afternoon. Welcome, caller.
Good afternoon. Let me start and applaud you for the topic this. So here's the question I'm saying that there seems to be issue of resourcing in these social observations. And in my humblest of view, seems to be to me an issue of an imbalance between the input of the budget allocation and the allocating of the resources needed for them to perform in their highest capacity. And by extension, the society is suffering from efficiency, right? And what I'm asking is that funding is insufficient, or is it that what's needed for these countries, are yet to be discovered by an authority? Is there a mismatch of competencies and deliverable ministries? Let somebody ask these questions, because the society, the people is suffering the lack of their competence. I thank you for allowing me my contribution.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Well said, well said. I missed a little bits there, but I got the budget allocation. So I guess she's agreeing with us with the way in which the budget is allocated, that there should be more priority placed on Ministry of Social Development. Mark, you heard clearer than me?
Well, I too, she was kind of breaking up, but what I understood what she said is that we have to have people with the competencies to get the job done, and more should be allocated for these kind of services. Because when you look across the board, I tell you, I mean, sometimes I take things off my phone that I can't stomach. It impacts on me so much to know that we have this Ministry of Social Development, and most of the problems in society are socially related. And I mean, we need to have. We have to stop putting square pegs in wrong holes. I think that is a kind of gist of what she's saying there. And to employ and add it to what I said about getting more foot soldiers on the ground. You don't have to give them a massive salary, a stipend or something, because people do these things because it affects them in their personal community, right? It happens right around them. So I think when you look at the method they use to employ people who work in these kind of ministries, energy more technocrats, and the financial ministry will call for more academic and people with economic backgrounds and things. But social development is something next to you, and it's neighboring you. All the problems are neighboring you. And when you look at the people who it affects the most, are the people who, as we say colloquially, the mouth on the ground. We're not saying that the ministry should come and feed these people, that's not their duty. What we need is facilitation. People with the right mindset that will use these facilities to empower these people to get rid of the negative ambitions that might creep into their life, because a lot of people don't want to get into those things, But sometimes a man was telling me one time, so Mark, I hear you on the radio talking this kind of way and think, if you have a child or two children and you were working and just like that, you lost your job. And when you go home now, you have nothing, eh? So when you go home now, these children watching you in your face and say, Daddy, I'm hungry. What will you do? But it took me a while to answer him, I know where he was going with that question. So I say I know people who are in the same situation, and some of these people, they try their best to work their way out of the situation, but they need help. They need sort of fortified, sort of like I said, these community centers where I live, brand new community center. It has been. They started constructing it before COVID. It isn't even finished, But I ask myself now, when it is done, what is going to happen there? Sometimes people who hold the keys, they behave as though that is part of their personal property. Problem to utilize it. We need the people in the community to be the people who are willing to come forward and say, listen, my skill is about this. This is this kind of skill set I possess. I can help a bunch of youths along the line. Let's empower those people with stipends. Let's make sure that some of the funding are for equipment and little machinery that we can put in these community centers that can help put a welding machine and get an ace welder from the community to teach fellas to weld. Instead of, because when you say, okay, so the people wasting their time, they have these courses and these courses, those things are costly, you know. When you get up in the morning to find money, to have breakfast, to have the clothing, to have what it needs to go to these courses, which are never really in the neighborhood.
And
they can set up these community centers in a way. Put a welding machine, you know, one that is in sync with the kind of welding we have now. Get people like Wendell who are master mechanics and say, okay, we are giving you a stipend, Wendell, and 2-3 youths that come by you, let's teach them the mechanic thing. In the long run, they could stay working with Wendell. Wendell's ambition and his method of making his own money, his own within that same capacity, he can now employ these youths because they are capable now to expand on his duties as a mechanic. But we're not seeing that. We only hearing with grants, like you said, and we only hearing that people, you know, they want help with this. That is good, you know. That has its merit. But we need the foot soldiers in the community to be empowered and to be facilitated in a way that we can pass the buck on to the youths and they who are willing to get out of the nothingness that they do all the time. Sometimes it's not negativity, they just have nothing to do.
Idle,
you know.
Idle.
And what happens when you're just idle? Anything.
And I mean, and that is so true. You understand? And I often wonder, I mean, you build a building like a community center, which is built with state funds. I would imagine the ministry responsible for building this will have an intimate connection to these buildings. Exactly. When I mean intimate connection, they would not just build a building and leave it up and throw your hands up in the air. Obviously, yes, you have access, the community have access to have their events in it as well as they plan or whatever. But it would be expectant that at least monthly, that ministry has something going to that space.
Exactly.
Because you build the space.
Yes.
So I would expect a program, I would expect a course, I would expect something, whether it's with a collaboration of the community-based organizations based on what they say is necessary. But I would expect, if you build the building, that you most definitely now will be consistently bringing resources to the building for its upkeep, infrastructurally, because some of them that just waste out into nothing. One, and two, to have it best utilized. Always having some type of course, as I said. So whether it's through collaboration and partnership with CBOs in the community or NGOs based in the community, or even if it's a ministry state-driven program, I would expect, or with NGOs like Alta and these things, that every single month, the ministry should have some program. You built it, you should have some functional program that you commit to in every single community center that you build. Exactly. It just can't be for wedding.
No.
It just can't be for somebody to rent it for a wedding. And as Wendell said, used to generate income only. It has to be used for something more than that. To the development of minds. Because even in community ministry, it is the community development. It's just not community. So you have to now bring resources, whether it's by way of program, whether it's by way of sport, whether it's by way of whatever, that serves the community within the space or the infrastructure you've built in the middle of the community.
Exactly. Wendell, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I want to add the 2 points. One of the points that Mark was making about the use of the community centers and so forth, and the point that the lady had made, the caller had made, with regards to allocation, and I want to add disbursement of funds. Now, Ronnie, you and I would have encountered in many of the ministries that we would have interacted with, the problem of disbursement of funds,
Correct.
right? And the ministries having inadequate funds at a given point in time to fulfill their obligation or their
True.
appointment,
Good
right?
point.
And so these are things that are happening behind the scenes. So when you hear the Minister of Finance come and blah 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 blah, so much money is going to be allocated to this ministry and so much money to that ministry. Many of the times that money that is said to be allocated does not reach the ministry when the ministry needs the money, right?
Well,
And that is one of the reasons why some of the ministries are unable to deliver the services. Now, the people who work in the ministry will not come out and say that openly, publicly, because their jobs will be compromised, right?
correct.
Because as you all know, we are dealing with leaders who are very fickle emotions. They wear their emotions on their sleeve, and as soon as you say something about them, they retaliate, and it's retribution. That's the kind of society that we have now, right? And so Ronnie, you can expound on it if you wish to, but
Right.
allocation and disbursement of funds is a very key concern when it comes to certain ministries. The next thing is the point that Mark was making. Right here in my community where I live, I have seen a battle of sorts concerning the recreation ground, where certain elements wants to have the keys to the facilities, and they want to control the use of the facilities and so on. And as Mark would have said, they operate as though it is their own private property, and they want to decide who can use it and when they can use it and how they will use it and so on. And I am in agreement with Mark with regards to excuse me, making use of the buildings and the centers that have been built by the government for the purpose of meeting the people at the point of their needs, right? Now I see, and I'll be very blatant here, I have seen more emphasis placed and more money spent on cutting ribbons to open these places. I've seen more money spent and more emphasis placed on creating a environment and creating an occasion where the ministers could come and laugh, yip, 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 and grin their teeth from ear to ear and take pictures than the actual use of the facility to meet the people at the point of their needs. And I'm saying that I am in total agreement with what Mark is saying. We have plumbers, we have welders, we have mechanics, we have hydraulic technicians, we have masons and carpenters, joiners that will readily make themselves available if it was just 1 hour a day to go and teach youths who are willing to come out, right? Why not? Why not focus? Why not develop the ministries in this manner?
Agreed.
You know,
Agreed.
Even
Agreed.
let me add a little more to the use of these community centers. Now, I sometimes I don't like to refer to how it used to be, right? Because I know things are trending, things are modernizing, we are going forward. It's a futuristic way we live now. Everything is technology, and we're going forward. We're going forward. But we have a problem with negativities, and we point at the youth when they do things that we don't like or things that don't empower the community to make it a more safe place and all of this thing. You know, back in the day, I am dealing with some people who are behind the scout movement. Now, I see these entities as disciplinary entities. Scout groups, Cub Scouts, Girl
Got it.
Guides, you know, cadets, all these things. Back in the day, Library had each and every one of them. Brownies, you know, Sea Scouts, and it was a bound to must have two. You ever say? Have as a youth, whether you be male or female, to be part of that. Okay, you have to make it a disciplined attitude. You have to make sure as a parent you say, listen, I know you have this to do and that to do, but it's good to get into this because it helps build and secure discipline in the youth's mind as they develop. And people can say what they want. You know, those style of disciplinary organizations, we should bring them back to the fore because it helps. It helps with the youth in whatever, it teach them techniques as boys, as how you be boys and how you be girls, and what you can do to help save yourself in certain situations. If it's like Sea Scout, you learn to swim, you learn to tie knots. They teach you a lot of things in these
Correct.
kind of disciplines, and I think it's important that we encourage. 'Cause I know a guy in my area who said he's willing to start back the scout group, but
Mm.
he has no help. He don't have the kind of financial resources to do it by himself. So
And that is the point.
yes,
Mark. That is why I say it is important for the ministry to commit to come back into the community in the
yes,
building that they built monthly to do something. Every month they must be doing something. Some courses may run more than 1 month, but every month start something new or continue or build on something that is there based on the needs of the community. Don't just build the building and then run away and say, well, let me leave it in the hands of the community. The community who will be still under resourced to do anything.
that's right.
They still need your involvement. If it was made a commitment, even if it was through partnership, and they say, all right, Ministry of Community Development build the building, whoever build the building, and Ministry of Social Development will do the program. But to commit that there must be something taking place there every month based on the needs of the particular community. And I pitch back to the point now, Wendell's point, where he knows for years we've been advocating for that. Sometimes the ministries, employees are willing, but they don't have the funding because the money has been allocated or spoken about in the budget, but there's no drawdown. They can't draw down from it to even get recurring expenditure to pay possibly the rent, to pay the light bills, to pay the phone bills, to pay the whatever, to pay the staff, to even get extra money to do what they're supposed to do after. So that is a problem. And sometimes now, and we don't put water in our mouth, that is when you see in the end, coming to the end of the financial year, programs start to run now. Like crazy. Do this, do that, do this, do that, do that. Because budget coming just after that. And you have to say you did X, Y, Z. But the money was tied up all the time. So you couldn't have planned and rolled out a good functional program to truly benefit the society. And it is because we are ignorant to these things, boy. They will continue to happen because nobody will call it out. And we are one voice.
Exactly.
We are but one voice. And
Wendell,
these are things that we've been saying for years.
Wendell, we're constantly talking about the actions of these people in authoritative places. You see, next year, 2025, big year,
Big year.
Election bells will be ringing. So you would see all kinds of attitudes, and they're starting to hit the ground where they should have been all the time. They come out now to woo you to put them back in office so that they can have this kind of comfortable way of living. That's how I see it. Who can vex you? I have no problems with that because that is what I see for myself. Because when you check it out, the people who empower these, who give these people the power and the authority to run things for them, when you look at it, they don't do anything for the people. But when election time comes around, you see them they come back in your face and they make these promises. They give you phone numbers you can call, and then after the election, those numbers are not functioning.
Correct.
So I think the onus is on the people to make demands. When they'll always say, we have to start demanding that kind of change and attitude towards us who stain our fingers for them.
Correct. And you could only make sensible demands if you have information. You're supposed to be gathering information on every sect at this point in time. You're supposed to be gathering information, collecting information. But are they really doing it? You're not doing that. You're sitting down, you're watching TikTok whole day. You're sitting down, you're watching Facebook whole day. You're talking about people business whole day. You have no understanding for what you need for yourself. But when there's a problem, you're ready to complain. When there's a problem,
You muted your microphone.
If
You
there's
muted-
a problem, sorry about that. You're
Yeah.
ready to fix it. You need somebody to help you fix it. But you have not done
Actually,
what you're supposed to do.
guys, I am going to drop off because my phone is dying here right now.
Yeah, go ahead, Wendell.
Okay, cool. Blessings.
Yeah.
Right. So
Safe
as
and
we
enjoy.
saying, Mark,
Yeah.
therein lies our problem.
Of
You
course.
can't tell me you're ready to vote. It have people with banners and flags and banners ready to vote, but
Yes.
don't have a clue what they're going to vote for. They're not
Exactly.
going to vote for anything more than the person look like them, or the father used to vote for this one, or the mother used to vote for that one, or I don't like that one, or a racist. That is all you're going to vote for. You are going to wait 5 years again
Yeah.
to give your vote away because you are upset with something. You haven't sat, addressed your thinking to see, boy, do I have any natural bias
Hmm.
within me?
Hmm.
What do I need to make my life better? What are the advocates saying? And that's why we need more advocates to start saying too.
Yes. And to
We
deal
are
with
the ones that sometimes have to bring the truth to the people
yes. We have to
because
also
the politicians will say what will benefit them, you know.
yes, we have to also demand that these people who take the podium should talk about the issues and not be
Correct.
mudslinging and the bacchanalia and stuff. I think we had enough of that. It's about time we get our minds together, like you say, and demand that they deal with the issues. They talk about the issues, and let us see if we can put methods in place to approach
Correct.
these issues and to deal with them regularly,
Correct.
not every 5 years.
Correct. Oil's Mac. We won't be changing anything. Nothing
No,
is going to change in society. There's
not
no time solution that can be brought forward if they don't have a plan themselves. Some of the ones who want to come in don't even have a plan of what's going on, don't even have an idea what's going on.
mhm,
Some of them who in power right now, they in power and don't know what's going on. They don't
exactly.
know a solution or a problem, the solution to the problem.
Yeah, yeah,
And I continue to say, people will roll out a number of programs, you know. But if you roll out programs without doing research, without having the right strategic approach, you will
yeah.
have programs out there that people are not even going to attend.
That's
And you
true.
will always have that problem.
Hmm, hmm,
Are you rolling out the right things in the right space?
hmm.
Or are you just rolling out things based on something that may have taken a one-off that took place in a community that went big and viral all over the place? So we say you go and do a program inside of there because a child get beheaded in there.
Knee-jerk actions, I call that.
Correct. So
Yeah.
and the thing is, if the governments and the parliamentarians and the want-to-be political leaders knew they were dealing with a society that informed itself with the things that it needed, or was well informed with the things that it needed, rather, they
Yes,
would have more respect.
yes,
They
they would.
wouldn't be mudslinging. They
Yeah.
wouldn't be quarreling because they
Mhm.
would understand that this society of people are one that are well researched, one that are well studied on what the issues is, one that are well aware of what they need to have a better life. And if we don't deliver it, they will
Mhm.
get rid of us.
That's right. That's right.
But
Exactly.
they know, Mark. They
Yeah.
know. And,
Yeah.
and and just a touch on the grand portion before we close. We know we have limited time remaining.
Yeah.
Even in that regard, the one that is most touted about for the ministries, the ones that people for some reason love to hear about and talk about, even that area isn't functioning well.
Hmm.
Look at some of the things. There are laws that need to be updated with those things. Look at the
Oh,
disability grant.
yes.
There are some people who are, there are those that cannot work. I understand that. But there may
Yeah.
be some that are on disability grant that could bake a bread home, that could
Mhm.
put a bottle of water outside to sell. That
Yes.
plant, I remember a gentleman, he is selling some, he had one leg. We went to help him in Claxton Bay.
Yeah.
And then we had to go and appeal to the social welfare to give him back a disability grant because the man picking mango and selling. Yeah, he mango tree and he picking up the mango and selling right in front of the house. He ain't
Yeah.
supposed to do that.
Hmm. Let us take
You
this call.
understand?
Let us go take this call. Good afternoon, caller. Welcome.
Yes.
Surreal.
Gentlemen,
Yes.
Good
Cyril here.
afternoon.
Always nice to hear you.
Nice. Now, I heard someone mention about the programs that young people don't seem to be attracted to. It is not that they are not attracted to the programs. I have worked in quite a number of those social programs, the MOS program, the YTEP program, the Women in Harmony program. Here what happened. Now, those programs, they say, is to help people who are unskilled, unemployed. You're given a stipend. Now, these people are unemployed. They have no income. How are they going to get from point A to point B if 2 and 3 months pass and no stipend is being given? Putting forward stipend, but when it's time for stipend, no stipend. I am speaking from experience. You know how many times I had to help young people, pay people money because they come in to as they say, give them a blowout because they to come to the center, right? So allocating money for the program, but when it's time for the students to get the stipend, no stipend. I mean, how that working? And next thing too, I have been teaching life skills for over 30-something years. I saw an ad they wanted a youth development officer. I am not at this stage about money. I love what I love and I am willing to give back. So I applied for the job. I realized, but they're not calling me. When I called to inquire why it is, because I have a first degree and I have a master's and I have a diploma and I'm a certified life skills facilitator. I am not now about money. I love working with young people. You know what the person from the human resource office told me? We didn't take you because you may not want to work for the salary that we paid. I say, but how you know I will not work for that? That is not right. That is not fair to me. I am willing to give back. Here was it, as God hear me. I wasn't looking for no $12,000 or no $13,000, you know. If they had given me $6,000, and I know my worth. I know my value. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes these people, they are not willing to give people who are willing to give back any chance. And I don't know why. I am trying to help young people in my area, all them little young boys. That's a whole story. I give a young man money to come and just spray the back of my house for him, for his use, to start a garden. You think he took the money and he never come back, right? So I am also, finally, I want to say, I work in quite a number of those regional complexes in Toko, in Maloney, and they're always underutilized, right? So it's not that services are not there, you know. It's something wrong in how they implementing these things. And why did they close down the girls in El Dorado? What they call that? Chatham and all these places.
Yes, the youth camps.
It's not that young people don't want to do anything and that they're lazy. They have to put this place properly, man. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Well said.
Yes.
Good contribution again. So, and you see, that's why it's important to have people call in. Because we as advocates, I will get in front of TV screen sometime, I will get on the radio sometime, and we will be able to have this information to put it forward to them. We are the ones that advocate to be on behalf of the ground. Because remember, we are now talking about the disconnect between allocation and drawdown.
Yes.
So you must now demand that the minister make sure that the finance minister make sure that they have the money in good timing so that stipends and these things could be paid.
Exactly.
These recurring expenditures could be paid, or else the program itself will never work properly. As you rightfully say, if you don't have money to get transport to reach, or you commit to your time, you sweat, you're motivated, and the stipend is a little incentive for you to go there, and your experience is nothing inside of it for 2 months. It will demotivate you,
Exactly.
and it will derail the intent of the program. And that is exactly what we're saying. But when you ask them, they will say, we have XYZ program. That's why Z program. The youths don't want to utilize these programs. A man really knocked me down on Facebook. I am talking about the programs and talking about how they under-resourced and the persons there not being properly taken care of. Sometimes the person, why wouldn't you want to get the best? That's a problem. If you want to teach somebody to be a barber, it's a worthy investment to pay a good barber. What is the problem? She's still willing to give her service for cheap. But if you want to really bring out a cadre of top-line barbers, top-line hairdressers, top-line welders, you can't expect somebody also who is one of the best to leave their trade to come and deal and train others.
Or to use some of their own resources, material-wise,
Correct.
to teach, at least supply them with materials and some sort of incentive to keep them
going.
Yeah.
And it must be timely. You must prioritize it. You must understand the gravity and importance of the program and what you intend to do. You must understand also your client base is from a deprived community, possibly, that you're trying to now bring up the stability, financial stability. So you cannot meet. If you have to leave something out to make sure they have that stipend, you have to make sure they have that stipend. Exactly. Because it could have a financial impact, also a psychological impact, and cause them to drop out.
Yes, like Wendell said, when you look at ribbon cutting ceremonies, if you ask them the budget for that, they can pay stipends for like 2 years.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So we as a people need to do that. We need to make the demands that are necessary. Put the information out there so that they see, when you see they come and they sell 10 fees, as many of them already have said, boy, what all they want in we manifesto, help you here. But when you all bring it to us, we know what to demand from them too.
Yes.
You understand? Because these things are critical for the change in our society. We cannot just sit down and complain about, oh, the place getting bad. Oh, we can't do nothing here. We each, as every citizen and a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, we are social agents.
Yeah.
You must impact some guy. You must give back to your community in some shape, form, or fashion, boy. Or you wasting time.
Exactly.
So
let me just read some comments that came in here from Farid Khan. He said, "One life to live. Keep it up real. Keep it real, brothers, as you always do." Katia Wells, thank you, gentlemen, for the very unpopular but much needed discussion. And Empress Lal is saying,
thank you.
100 agree for my family's future. So those are some of the messages that came in.
Thank you for all those that continue to come on. Thank you for those. We ask you all to share it as well. Look at the amount of information going here. Yeah. Look at the amount of critical information that we share here every single week, Mac. You just being on the show to assure you're learning something too.
Yeah, of course.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
So, and these are things that we've been trying to sensitize the public for years. It will only enrich your life. We have to, as citizens, be able. That's my closing statement. We have to prioritize things like this.
Of course.
This is how we'll enrich our life. The 5 and 10 hours we on Facebook, or we going on a live with somebody talking foolishness, and gossip. Come and spend an hour here. Come and spend 2 hours here. Go to our next program with another group doing the same thing, talking about things that's going to benefit you. Share these videos. Help somebody else. If we don't do those things, nothing is going to change. So I just want to continue to encourage Trinidad and Tobago to get yourself more involved. We have committed to continue doing this. We've been doing it for years. Sometimes we feel we're losing our voices to do it. But we need you guys to get yourself more involved. This is an election year. You need to consider what is necessary for the improvement and enrichment of your life so that you make good decisions going forward. From behalf of the Single Fathers Association, we say have a good weekend. We say be safe, and God's rich blessings upon you and everybody else as well, Mark. Thank you again, the Power 102, for giving us this space to have these weekly conversations, and we will continue to do so.
Okay, do enjoy the weekend too and be safe out there, my brother.
Thank you, bro.
That's it for today's edition of Hard Talk with the Fathers Association, Rondell Fields and Wendell Grant.